I look like my head is 12 feet away and my gut is right up front. Yeah, play music for 3 minutes. We'll start with some silence for a few minutes. I'm going to talk a lot about meditation during this coming hour because it's the real practice that brings us into ourselves, not the ones with thinking involved, but changing the point of our awareness to be inside of ourselves rather than out. I wanted to talk about meditation because meditation is the operational method by which we can leave our mind behind and instead infuse ourselves through our bodies and convey the understanding or wisdom of our bodies to everyday situations which would fall outside of the castle of words the human race has constructed to take care of itself and to learn. In the West, when it comes to interpersonal relationships, there's a lot to do with violence throughout these relationships, like from the cop to the criminal, or you get what I mean, president on down to a soldier. It's a highly regulated system. That's why we're successful. We've done it better than any other country in the world for a long period of time. And the mind is a supreme organ for understanding of the external world, but not so much for understanding the internal world. The internal world is much more difficult because the external world has objects separate from us, and we learn about them as objects. But when you look inside of yourself and think of your thoughts as objects, they somehow lose their majesty. So, what a good meditator does, at least the kind of my ilk, which would be, in psychology, it would be Carl Rogers. And in spirituality, there are many branches that focus on getting in touch within. I found out that getting in touch with the within was much harder than doing anything without, because our whole civilization is bent to focus on the without and learning and doing things, from being a soldier to being a citizen, to being a government worker, to being a mailman, to being a wife, child. But the internal world, when you first look at it, doesn't mean much. Like, how do I look within? I get that still from a lot of people because they can't imagine about how they look within. Well, I've never been one to become confused by suggestions offered to me by the world. But what I did was I started with the kind of meditation I started back in those days, 50, 60 years ago. It's just called opening of the third eye. I'm sure you've heard about it. Third eye is about an inch above the nose here and in the center. Supposedly the working place of the third eye, which is the wisdom eye. But nobody ever tells you what the wisdom is about it, because the Westerners have no idea. We probably do have cults that do that, but it's the Eastern cults that featured going inside by having the attention of the mind not on something to do on the outside or look at on the outside, but something to do on the inside of one's own body. I have a good imagination. It was very easy for me to imagine that there was a point inside my forehead, just above the nose, and with eyes turned inwards and upwards, to focus on that spot. I don't remember how long each stage took, but I was very persistent. I wouldn't take no for an answer. So I got into that forehead meditation pretty easily. And when I became stabilized in that, I moved my imagined looking into my body, turning the eyes around and looking at the darkness behind my eyes, until I could feel the whole area of my brain and the eyes and above. And I practiced that way for a while. But after a while, I noticed that that area where I had been practicing meditation on the third eye was somehow different from my perception of the rest of my body. The light was more lit and more rosy red than the rest of my body, even the face. So I decided then that I was going to drop that attention that I had that opened up that brain chakra. And proceed downwards, taking consciousness with me to my mouth, my neck. And my first major stopping point was the heart. I learned relatively quickly how to drop my attention from my brain inwards to my heart. Now, a person says they can't look inside, imagine themselves looking inside at their heart. But actually, come on, it's easy. It's called dreaming. It's called fantasy. You drop your mind from your forehead down into your heart. And I did it in one jump. It just sort of plop down. Of course, I had been practicing this kind of meditation for at least a year. And when I saw how easy it was to plop down, I became much encouraged. And at that time, I began to also see if I could go lower and fill my body with the radiant energy of my attention, which was happening at the same time as my attention was still in my forehead and downwards. So, over a period of months, I would follow the Kundalini in the back of my back, going downwards. No, I don't remember it going downwards. I just remember it coming up. That's another story that I made that one up. But I stayed in the heart chakra for a long, long time. And over that period of time, my body seemed to light up. That is, I could look within and see this kind of diffuse light and the chakras that were in it. So, for the life of me, I can't understand how someone couldn't imagine going inside their own body and focusing on a point. What's so fucking hard about that? Now, I can understand how some people would want to do it by saying, that's a stupid thing to do. That's a different story. But these people say they can't do it. They can't imagine looking inside of their bodies. Now, pretend you're an X-ray machine then. Work on it that way. Anyway, after being in my heart area for years, the Kundalini moved downwards and filled that below the navel area of my tummy with energy and largeness. It enlarged to And soon, I was totally aware of my body from the inside, but not as it would appear to anybody in the universe, because looking at the body from within, you only see lights that are variations of rose-colored from the blood cover of your eyes, and the light going through it turns out to be looking, when your eyes close, like red. And you can see that all the way extending down into your body, how the body's density is replaced by the lightness of this light energy. And after it left the heart, it went downwards relatively rapidly again. And I thought it was descended in the left channel, but I don't know what they say. But right now that I'm thinking about it, it seems the right channel. There are two channels in your spine for the Kundalini to move, and I found them both, and they hurt both. The energy of drilling that energy, doing these two channels in the spine, was horrendous. There was a lot of pain in the area of the heart before I penetrated the heart, and there was a blockage that laid there for maybe 15 or 20 years before I broke through. But when I broke through one day, I was surprised. It just happened spontaneously. And it dropped down into my groin. And over the next few weeks, I pushed it out to the bottom of my feet and saw my whole beingness as lying within the light of consciousness, which is that whitish kind of light that I saw within, that glowed a little bit like the luminescent stuff that shines in the dark. I forget what it's called, but like that. It wasn't sharp, it was floaty engine and energies and edges. And I would see the lights as energies still inside my brain and in my face and in my head. But it was downwards, the journey to my heart, and then even more so the journey back up from my groin to my heart, that absorbed so much energy, so much time, and caused so much pain. I just couldn't sit and be at peace. I didn't know how to sit cross-legged because my hips were very stiff. So I sat the Japanese style, sitting on my heels. Or for more stability, I would sit like Seiza, but have a pillow in the middle that I could sit on and have my rear feet go out a little bit and sit between the 2 feet. And that was pretty stable. And stability is important when you practice meditation, because you're going to when you lose hold of the concept that you're in the body and start descending into the body, your body doesn't just automatically sit at attention, because you're not addressing its needs for balance control. So it has to be something that's body learned by repetition, by sitting, year after year. So that the proper sitting is there. So the birth stage was filling my forehead with observational energy that I got by turning my eyes inward and upward and imagination looking at that eventually I was going to pierce it. I'm looking from it below, and I'm just focused on this area here, and after a while, I'm filling the forehead with that same energy. But I can't force it downwards. I didn't even know it was possible to force downwards if it was. But it dropped downwards rather suddenly one day into my heart area. And it stayed there a long time. Because meditating on the heart chakra or going through the heart chakra was extremely painful for me on the right-hand side, the ascending side. Years, I don't know, maybe 10 years. And that's why I know the classical kinds of meditations that one reads about, where you go from chakra to chakra and wake it up, is a hell of a lot of time with very little feedback during that period of time outside of the happiness that meditation brings you. Let me cover that a little more at this time. I used to do my first formal training with Philip Keplo's organization in New York, not New York City, but upstate New York. And I would go into one of the sitting sessions. There'd always be one or two people out of the 30 or 40 people that were there that were going like, and I didn't know what the hell their practice was, but it wasn't what I was doing or the other people were doing. For me, it gave me an opportunity to practice meditation without worry, because there was somebody around. And if I got in a pickle, he'd be able to fix it. Or so I thought. But what I learned was the most amazing lesson that served me well, which is you can become, your whole body can become an object to your mind. So just as the world is an object to your mind, scanning of your inner life inside the body can provide a similar scan in the opposite direction. This is the me looking outwards, and the opposite direction is me looking inwards. And it's impossible to locate where me is. It's a directional kind of thing. So, after the Kundalini was coming back up through back of my legs, my ankles, my knees, hips, and up to the heart. That's where I had the 10 years or so of heart pain, as the energy was like a pencil, a sharpened pencil, in the right ascending nada. And it was necessary to pierce that heart chakra and continue its way up to the brain and beyond. And finally, it just happened one day. In the middle of meditation, the knot broke, and I was free to be able to attend it upwards and outwards. But what this kind of meditation taught me, self-taught meditation based on loosely on what some of the teachers were saying, was to learn to trust yourself when it comes to how to practice meditation, because you may be creating a new way of doing meditation if you do it wrongly or not like I say for you to do. But based on what I've told you today, it's mostly a matter of staying in good and kindly touch to your body. Don't flagellate it, don't starve it, don't beat it, don't exercise it too much. Be gentle with it. And if you're gentle with it, the discoveries you make will be more gentle, and your personality will remain more gentle. Because it's kind of a warrior's path, the way I practice it, which was with precision, with energy, with full attentiveness, feeling lots of pains from where the Kundalini was blocked from going. So I guess I also practice Kundalini yoga besides Zen. Except few people, Zen people ever talked about any kind of thing like I had. Matter of fact, they didn't talk about anything at all. I asked them about their meditation, and they said, I don't get anything out of it. I don't go anywhere. But I did. I learned how to become mindful of my body and the organs inside, including the lungs, the heart, the stomach. I think there are some other ones on the way, but I can't remember right now. And it's quite an accomplishment to have your whole body immersed in those inner mind energy states, which are unlike any from any other practice. A bus driver wouldn't get it automatically. A tree climber wouldn't either. Somebody that handled animals wouldn't either. It's purely a physical thing that had to be addressed in a correct physical way. The meditation then just unfolds. But you must learn this over time, is to penetrate your own body and focus on those areas within, much like you would if you had a stomach ache and you were told to concentrate your attention on your stomach and eventually the pain will go away. Well, yeah, that's right, because eventually it would go away anyway. Maybe it went away a little faster, attending to it. But it's the thing, it's very much a thing of determination, focus, and repeated effort day after day. I used to meditate maybe 4 or 5 times a day with at least an hour and a half or 2 hours each session. I had no life outside of it. I just did it on trust that this was something I could find. I trusted my teachers. And after I had penetrated my whole body with that Kundalini, my whole body inside is light to me now when I look inside visually and look around. It's still malformed, it doesn't have a form, but there's dark parts, there's light parts, there's different colors, but it's not specifically a colored kind of result. It's a result that looks more like light, white light or clear light penetrating downwards into my body so I can look at everything from inside and more or less imagine what the contents would be. And it's the imagination which also helps you pin your focus on the inside, like that initial part of trying to break open the third eye with the Kundalini, with the attention ascending into that spot there. This is the hardest spot, except for the heart, which was 5 times harder. But the first one here was hard, but it wasn't so hard at all compared to the heart. And you'll be different. You will not have these symptoms. You will have your own. And as a matter of fact, you may never find a mention of the symptoms you're experiencing in any book anywhere, because there's such a wide range of experiences that a meditator has that has practiced meditation a long time. And I've practiced well over 60 years. I'm good at it now. Now when I drop inside, my body rests, no tension, and it's solid, like a mountain is the way I would say it. I feel like a mountain. I feel like the master of the universe, or at least of the energies. And it's a feeling of accomplishment and also of mastery, of discovering the various areas within my own body and using meditation or awareness to become aware of all of the intricacies of the inner body, including the chakras and the energy movements, and the effects those energy movements has on the outside world. I fooled around with that for a while too, but with very limited success. I know that Caplow told me that he had this ability to watch a person, and if they were at rest, to make them get up and move, or if they're moving, they had to sit down or fall down. And he was really grooving on that for a while, exercising that power. Until he got chastised by his teacher, who more or less said, "What the fuck are you doing? Are you here for enlightenment or for learning how to play things with your mind?" And it's this way you sit for years. Whether it's for one session for 25 minutes a day or for 6 hours a day of sitting. It's good every now and then to take a sesshin at some Zen center or some other spiritual organization. But it is also important to not be too much of a searcher in many different disciplines. You don't visit the disciplines and try them on. That's the worst thing you do. Because you become a perpetual student and an asshole that thinks you know too much or know a lot. You may know a lot, but you haven't attained much. Attainment requires you to shut up about what you're doing, to swallow your own fears and joys, and only express them to yourself and to your teacher. The teacher may not have been through the experience you've been through, but he knows well enough what the kundalini and what those energies inside of you do. Make things visible or light things up or energize them. Because the energization that takes place from meditation, once you've mastered it, is your body becomes solid. It becomes like I can't imagine anything it becomes like. I don't know. My body appears to be a mass to me. And where I feel it the most is in my back as it lies against the chair. In my chin, because there's energy of is talking going through it. And the energy of my brain, because my brain is always lit up with that energy. So you make me forget what I was trying to say. But your experiences may not be the same, and almost definitely will not be the same as mine. They may be more interesting, they may be less interesting, they may be more painful, they may be less painful. But if they're any more painful than I went through with these passing of the upward migration of the kundalini in the right channel in my spine, I can't imagine much what it would be like. But after the kundalini went through that knot in my heart on the way up, it was relatively soon after that it completed its journey and the loop was established, a continuous looping of that energy outside of its normal channel. You sit and it's just when you first sit for any meditation, it's good first to just shut up and let your body calm down. And go to your third eye. Stay there for a bit. And then descend downwards into your body in that inner channel. And your whole body is bathed in light. I don't mean it's like a spotlight shining from the heavens, but the light seems to come from your hair or generated itself inside your body, my body. And the body will always be lighted inside after you've completed that passage. And that's when you can waste time goofing around with the energies. But Kapleau realized there's no gain in playing games with the Kundalini energy and with the people around you. And yet, those two people that were making a lot of noise seemed to have an entirely different practice. I don't know whether it was to oxygenize their blood so that they'd have these altered states, or whether it was something else, but they were the only ones that made noise. And no one seemed to pay any attention to it or complain about it. I didn't complain because I was a newcomer. Well, in any event, Kapleau wouldn't allow me to become a monk at his place. And was required for outsiders, that would be me, to pay $350 a month, which that was a long time ago, in the 80s. And I couldn't afford it. I had very little money because I had become a wandering monk. So I had to go. The next place I went to was after I came to Los Angeles. And that was the ashram of Thich Thien Nhan, my original teacher, my ordaining teacher. We had, starting off, 4 houses that were occupied by students, and when I left there was 8 houses, I believe, and we were in fierce competition with Maizumi, who had his own ashram 6 blocks away, and he was equally thriving in that period of time when Zen was new. And there were a few Zen masters like Maizumi Roshi and my teacher, my originating teacher. I don't know. I can't remember. Oh, Sansani. He wasn't my originating teacher. My originating teacher was Thien Nhan. But we had 3 Zen centers, each within a mile or a mile and a half of each other. So the students often visited all 3. My teacher from the first center, International Buddhist Meditation Center, his name was Thich Thien Nhan, and he was a pretty high-level monk from Vietnam, and we practiced Vietnam Buddhism, which is a form of Raja Yoga, although nobody would believe it at the time. He was such a gentle man. I abused him. I took advantage of him. I nearly lost my soul in doing that. But we were in a competition, you might say, with Maizumi's ashram, which was 6 blocks away. When I'd go to see the Maizumi sitting, and I saw the teacher there, Maizumi, each of us had question and answer after these kinds of sittings that were special, that were at what do you call it, a workshop or a week-long setting. What was I going to say? I was going to say something humorous, so just laugh. Sitting for me was both easy and hard. It was easy to allow my mind to descend into my body and to watch it even as it descended down to my toes and then to ascend. The hard part was the physical austerity of the pains that I felt in my spine and also in my hips and knees because of the learning how to sit cross-legged and into full lotus. I can't sit full lotus anymore. I haven't tried in years. But I had heard about it's important to sit in full lotus because it's so stable. And it is stable. There's a stability that you get by sitting full lotus and doing it comfortably, such that instantaneously your body can fall into meditation, and quite strong meditation. So, if you're going to do sitting meditation, you should make an effort towards sitting in a lotus style, because the depth of your meditation will instantly increase and engulf your whole body with the peacefulness of energies that are there throughout your whole body and are rather soothing. But you can feel the energies move around inside your body. You can learn how to direct them. And then from that time on, you just spend time sitting in silence with your body well balanced, sitting half lotus or lotus, hands crossed in front of you like this, forming a little cup that you imagine that fluids from the brain were falling down your face and going into the cup. And those sittings became fantastically happy things to do. They just made me happy. I didn't seem to notice any spiritual change in me, in my body's energies, the way it flowed or anything like that, but I know my body was very healthy back then. And I loved just sitting and watching the energies move through my body, and I would feel them in my as part of touching my body, not just as seeing lights inside, but feeling their movement inside my body. I try to connect them to the energies running through the fingers and play with them all like that, but when you're meditating 5 hours a day, what do you spend the rest of your day with? You doodle to yourself. Okay, so we got through that stage of learning how to sit. Now, this is interesting because by now you lower your energy as you lower, as it descends into the spine and as it grows up from the base of the spine. And you imagine it forming a cup in your lap. And you imagine the energies, the kundalini, flowing down your face, your chest, and filling the cup. And later on, you reverse it and take the energies out of the cup and have them go up the spine. But here, it's different because the first way, you start at your back, at your butt, about an inch above the end of the crack where the tip of the spine is. And you go up the spine that way. But when you do it from here, you miss those lower two chakras. And it becomes just the stomach, the heart, the throat, and the forehead. It's a simplified form of sitting, which is not so powerful as some of the other two. But it's more comfortable and you can sit longer. Now, from now on, after learning how to sit strongly, the real work begins. Because what you're seeing, I wish you'd stop rotating like that. It's distracting. That's Eddie. Eddie, stop that. Well, he's gone his own way. He looks like he's dealing with the kundalini in the spine. That'll teach you. Do you have any questions at this point before I go further? Remember, sitting is a very fundamental thing to practicing meditation. It's the first real battle you're going to have with your body and with the people around you, adapting to your needs. Any questions? Okay. The next thing is to continue to practice sitting. And something sort of surprising happens. Eddie, stop that. You're distracting the others, including me. When you sit with eyes half open, in a well-balanced, full lotus position, you're already more than halfway there. The body locks into place and the energies flow like crazy. You sit like a rock after that, like a mountain. And that's another practice that I practice later, is being this mountain of energy. But I don't want to talk about that now. You just sit every day, and you do it without fail, same times. And sometimes sitting is hard, sometimes it's easy. But it's always pleasurable to just sit and fall inside yourself and reoccupy your whole body with your mind. No need to go outside. Inside was even more fantastic in terms of what it shows you, because unlike the outside where you learn from hundreds and thousands of years of explorers, scientists, philosophers, sages, politicians, you learn about the outside world, and you learn about the sitting processes up to full lotus. Once you have full lotus and you're sitting in it with ease, your life will transform. Eddie, stop. Stop that. Relax. Drop into your body slowly. Can you feel it dropping down towards your stomach? Try to sit motionless. You don't have to sit perfectly, but motionless is best. And when you're sitting in meditation, don't combine it with some different exercise. If that was taking you automatically, fine. But if you're doing some other exercise, don't do that. But if that was taking you over like that, good going. We might as well go to question and answer period. Does anybody have any answers?
Ed, this is Chris. Got a question.
Yeah.
How much of what you're saying is your personal journey, let's call it, versus universal and versus an individual? All of us will experience our own thing. So how much of it is personal versus universal?
Well, it's really hard to divide unless you compare your experiences all along with somebody else on the same or different path and compare notes as they happen. Can you really tell? To ask in retrospect. Repeat the question. Simply.
You just talked about your meditation experiences over years.
Right.
How much of what you just described is personal Ed Musica experience, your physiology and whatever, versus universal meditation or what others might expect or yeah.
The general outlines are pretty well set. You attempt from beginning sitting to always eventually ending up doing a full lotus, if you can. If you've got the legs for it. If you don't have any legs, you can't do it. But I'd say I share 90%, 95% the experiences that different students have gone through. The experiences I went through will not be experienced in the same way by most people. Like in stages, I can see mine happening in stages, going to the heart stage, coming up to the heart, going to the brain. Those are stages. There's a reason for it because in Japan, for example, the monasteries are very regulated, as in China. The sitting in lotus, full lotus, is expected. The chanting that you do in the afternoons is a kind of a break from the tedium of everyday life. And you sit and chant for 20 minutes. And you hear the chanting if you don't want to chant yourself. But the full lotus sitting is almost like being a monk, because automatically you start wanting to do more, perceiving more of that inside life that you didn't know you have. And you can spend 40 years or 50 years looking inside, as have I. And I still like doing it because I feel relaxed, energetic, and happy. But not always have I felt that when meditating over the last 50 or 60 years. I can really only talk about myself, what my experiences are now. And to answer that question, the only real way I could have answered that is if I also had their experiences or I was listening to their talking during satsang by asking questions like the Roshi would. The Roshi would ask questions, or they would speak to the Roshi, and they'd mention their problems, and he'd tell them how to handle it or whatever. And I never did that to any great extent. Even here, I hardly ever ask people to reveal what's going on inside themselves. I leave them to do that for themselves, and I know that's what they want to do. Look at Sarah. She just loves sitting. Agavan too. Jay goes into sleep, a conscious sleep maybe. It's fun. If you look at it as fun rather than as a tour guide to the deeper life, it'll be more helpful, because I just know what I went through and what others went through with me. And the most of that I spent was with Waizumi, Tianan, and the Zen master, I forget his name. So we were all trained alike, but we never talked to each other about what our experiences were. It was forbidden. I really don't know how universal that would be, but I assume that there will be a great deal of similarities in terms of the physical challenges that you'll face sitting in meditation, like needing to sleep or having a backache or knees or hips or something like that that you'll fight with for 10 years. But if you've been sitting for 10 years, you know there's no other life for you. It's the real life. The other life is reacting to the external world, which you have no control over, to becoming aware of your inner world, which is all about you. You've got it all to yourself. And the outer world of this world is replaced by the inner world of yourself as its object. Now, everyone tries to locate the looker. Everybody. I can't imagine anybody doing it that doesn't also try to look back, not only back into themselves, into their heart, or into their back, or into the Kundalini. But looking into themselves, and what do they find? It's so refreshing to have your own self as an object of meditation that was not like any kind of learning you do in the outside world. There you learn about objects and how they work, how the physical body works, and medicine and all that kind of stuff. But from the inside, the only thing you really have is your own body and what you do with the body and what you learn from the body and how the body reacts against you. It's a never-ending job. So if you become a teacher, you learn the problems that they experience, and then you see whether you have a matching experience or not. That's the first thing you try to do. Then, if there's something entirely unusual, you tell them to sit with it for a while to see if they move beyond it, or they can describe it differently the next time we have what do you call it? Face-to-face. Forget it. It's face-to-face meetings. In a Zendo, we had on a daily basis a 2 minute or 3 minute meeting with Roshi, where we'd be in the guest house and ring the bell. We'd walk down to his cabin. He'd be by the front door. He'd be sitting there. And you would be sitting, you sit down right by the front door, facing him. And what you're supposed to do is present something to him, a question or an observation about your own body or something or other, like a question. And then you'd answer it. Now, he would have a vast range of exposure, of finding out how other people experienced it, which I don't, because the experiences that I talk about, I rarely find teachers talking about them in their books or anything like that. So I can't tell. It could be the way I experience it is mostly of a Japanese Zen style, with an emphasis on sitting strongly, being macho, but melting in the glow of that inner light that keeps presenting itself to you with all the peace that that brings. But when you're a monk, you're supposed to be practicing rather than feeling peaceful. You have a koan that you work like hell to try to solve. And that is something I think was looked down upon in many areas of the Zen world, but Kapleau did it with his students because they couldn't face the rigor of being in a system of sitting. So they learned on their own, each and every way. They pay attention to the person sitting next to them, the kind of noises they made, the way they spoke, the way they talked after satsang. And nobody talked about their meditation experiences. You were not to tell anybody else about your experiences for some reason or other. It was secret. But I think part of it is they want you to find your own way. And the more you're following advice from somebody else, you're still finding somebody else's way, not your own way. So also, when you finally do find enlightenment, you've done it your way, mostly, because the original experiences that I had with Kapleau were in the early 1970s and really had nothing to do with the understanding I have today at all. That's a non-answer. Do you accept?
What I feel and hear here, to me, is let's call it a technique of, like you said, close my eyes, sit lotus, half lotus, whatever, feel my body. But what is felt or experienced is personal. That's how I'm interpreting what I'm
Okay.
not just what your answer was today, but in general, because that's what it seems like to me. And I guess that's it.
What do you make of that?
Pardon me,
What do you make of that?
because when I hear you or a teacher, I sometimes it becomes a goal rather to feel or experience something that I have either read about or heard about, or I'm doing it wrong if I don't, versus that just the technique or like I love what you keep saying. Just drop down, just drop down. But once I drop down, then it becomes my world, my personal. And when I say my personal, Chris kind of goes away, and there's an experience, but that experience is unique, and it will change over time, like you said, but it changes over time uniquely in this body for this experience. And maybe that's why the teachers didn't have people talk about it because they would start comparing and say, "Oh, I haven't hit that. I've hit this stage. No, I've," and that's what I'm thinking because I feel that in myself even that some will say, "I feel this," and they'll, you know, the
Well,
point,
have
I
you
guess,
tried
yeah,
the three
go ahead.
fart technique?
I'm sorry.
Have you tried the three fart technique?
Oh, well, mine is two farts and a burp because, and I have to do it burp, fart, burp or whatever because the order is very important for me. That's my Chris technique. Um, you got me thinking of a funny story, but I won't tell it. But yeah, anyway, that's something that always like, I hear Nisargadatta, I hear you, and then I think if I do this, then I will feel that. There's that part of my mind
Well,
that
that's
is,
part of it too. It's not so much that I'm poisoning it, but if your body's anything like mine, and I've explored it from the inside deeper, it's likely that your body has produces similar experiences,
Mhm.
body mind.
I'm
Because
thinking
what
about it.
you're doing is, look, there are waking consciousness, sleep consciousness, and you could say meditation consciousness. And real meditation consciousness is really being in samadhi.
Hmm. Hmm.
And anything up to that is learning endurance,
Hmm.
learning to tolerate pain, learning to find the equilibrium points in you. Don't make it too complicated.
My mind does do that by
That's why,
expectations of result. That's it. Expectation. When you say something, or not just you, but like I said, Nisargadatta or anyone, Robert, that's in me, it sets up an expectation, um, or a vision of an ideal of what meditation or spirituality is or should be.
well, you have
And
to spend once a week castigating yourself for being so gullible to yourself
oh, that's not hard.
Saturday,
That's
shaming Saturday.
Yeah, it's not hard to castigate myself. I can do that very easily. I can do it. I'll do it right now if you want to watch.
All right.
No, but joking aside, that is something that that hearing for me, hearing a like a technique, like you're saying, close my eyes. That's to me that sounds universal to some extent. Whereas what happens after that, I just forget that. Just let it be. Let it happen and forget any expectation on what happens. That's
That's,
how that's what I feel.
I agree.
Talking with other people, I have found stimulates my mind immediately to comparison. And I watch that, I feel that, I know that, but it's there. Um, like I said, comparison and judgment. Oh, that's this, or that's, oh wow, I feel, you're here, I'm here. Ranking, that's another part of it. Ranking and
Okay,
comparison.
settle down.
It's okay. All right. Okay. Well, these are the things that I struggle with is judgment, comparison, and that kind of thing, and expectation on what I should be feeling.
And stop it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just do what you're told to do and generate don't generate any kind of expectations. That's one of the things you lose is expectations, because the unusual and the impossible will happen to you all the time. Once you're do a lot of meditation, you'll run into these kinds of things that'll totally turn you upside down because they're not expected, things you don't expect. But I understand what you're talking about. But that's your problem, not the others. Eddie, what was going on with you?
Yeah, I find that like with temple chanting sometimes like the energies start like going pretty crazy in the body, and I'm not ever sure like what to do with it when it's doing that.
Try just sitting quietly and feel them.
Okay.
Just feel them, because those energies are changing your physical body. They're making it adjust in a different way, a more balanced setup, something based on what you will or will not experience later. So to have that much going on in you is a very good sign. But to be able to just tolerate it and have it happen, and don't try to understand it or fix it. Just watch it and feel it and see it happening. And then someday, 40 years from now, you can tell your students about that week where you had this difficulty.
Yeah. So
Did you feel flow up and down the spine?
yeah, that'll it like it it's it's sometimes, yeah, sometimes it'll like uh yeah, sometimes I'll feel it go up and down from like the spine to like the head. And then other times it'll just be like flowing throughout like the whole body. Like the way it flows is different like at each different like it's yeah, the way it moves sometimes is different.
You'll have many kinds of experiences like that throughout your meditation life. It always changes, always changes.
Yeah, it yeah, lately it's been getting like more I find it's been getting like more physical. Before it wasn't so much like physical, is more like inside, and I was able to do what you were telling me, like more like to be able to yeah, now it's like running physical, and before it wasn't as like physical.
Okay. It's just consider yourself fortunate that you're having these experiences so early in your meditation career. It's just keep going, and as much as possible, when they're roaring through you, just watch them from a peaceful sitting position rather
Oh,
than letting them do you.
okay, yeah, that was the difference. I used to be able to watch them from a peaceful position, and now it's doing like me, so don't let it do me and go back to like watching it.
Yeah, just watch it,
Okay, I gotta get back to like the okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Eddie.
because the energies can get to be very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And if you're practicing some off brand form of meditation by somebody that isn't practiced, you can get into trouble. I've never really known anybody that got into trouble,
Okay.
but be peaceful. No matter
Okay.
what the experiences is, just watch it and sit as strongly as possible. If you can sit cross-legged, do so. And aim for peace. You had the peace before, it'll come back again. Right
Okay.
now, you're going through an energetic adjustment, and there'll be hundreds of these through your meditation career. Hundreds. Some much more painful than others, others not so much at all. But it's a tough work. We should get paid overtime for what kind of danger work? What is that? We should. A lot of people, most people, never reach the end of their spiritual career. They go to a place until they seem to be making no more progress, and they say to themselves, well, that's good enough. I'll come back again and try it in a year to do it. They don't. Continuity is so incredibly important. Even a break of a week can cause problems when you're just learning meditation. I mean, for the first 20 or 30 years. Just watch, feel yourself. Are there any other questions or answers? Sarah, do you have a comment?
Thanks,
I
Ed.
really enjoy your presence. It's very soft and comforting.
Thank you. What you just said about taking a break, how it's really bad for you. I got so caught up recently in medical stuff. I'm getting surgery on my leg, so I had to be here and I had to be there and I had to get tests and I didn't have my regular meditation time. Now I always keep meditation type music on and in the day just to keep part of me connected to that quiet place. But I really had a meltdown last weekend that I just I thought I can't do this anymore. I'm going too far off the track. So I kind of talked to this one doctor and said I can't come here anymore. I need a break. And I got back to my quiet place, and that's everything to me. I can't function well out there in the world if I'm not sitting quiet.
Good.
That's all I know.
Meditation was born for you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome. Bernadette, give me a question, whether you got one or not.
I can't think of any. I don't know.
I'll let you go.
Okay.
Let's not be too artificial about this. Jay, you have a question,
Um,
comment?
I think my question would be what does the absolute mean to you? Because you spent 15 years into it, and my understanding of it is the now moment, pure awareness, awareness of awareness, in which there was no edgy. I mean, from the way you described it. And I think where you are in bliss doesn't seem to be something I associate with the split mind. It seems to be a deeper state. I find it here. I love my life in the world, but the takeaway from the satsangs allows me to live in the mundane world with a safety. and a grace that's extremely profound, very deep. Almost everything that I do during my day becomes a meditation. But in terms of Advaita, in terms of my reading Robert Adams, my Terence Gray, my Nisargadatta, and your extraordinary book, Self-Realization and Other Awakenings, I feel I need to start formal meditation again. I have all the accoutrement here, and I don't have to fight my little kitty for the cushions. So it's just and the fact that you come back to this and the importance of this is imperative. So I feel blessed that I'm as old as I am and as excited every day to participate in the mundane world, but still, I run to the satsang because your grace and the realization of God's love that you share with us. Absolutely, I'm crushed, crumbled. Just I love it, and my takeaway is bliss, and from that, from the satsang, and trying to find that. But I still believe that the way you describe the absolute. I'm not sure that's the end of the road. Maybe that's, I don't think there is an end to the road. But anyway, maybe I should let you answer if you.
Well, it's the end of the learning experience on one road. That's one way of putting it. But there are other things that are equally entertaining and informative and difficult to solve.
Wow.
But that's one way of looking at it. I tell you the truth, I was blessed with my ability to not believe a word that was said to me outside of my practice. I would, except for the teachers, of course, but I didn't believe anything because I saw how easy it was to believe things that ultimately were easily proven untrue. And that's been sort of an attitude I've always had, or at least since I was grown up, of beware of the bewitching power of words and concepts, that they will trap you. So what you do is you have to push them away and say, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, 3 times. Throw salt over your shoulder.
Yeah. I don't, I mean, I spend a lot of time alone. I don't look for other people. I'm not, I, I live in New York City. I live in an exquisite part of it, and I have a breakfast flock when I go out in the morning for coffee and breakfast. And many of them are my age, and there's a grace among us because we love our attainment in the sense of the given world, the world that we see. Not, I think, as you grow older, hopefully you become not necessarily steeped in the spirituality, which when I was 21, I started reading Suzuki and Zen, and I've been reading all of my life, but I didn't start meditating until about 10 years ago. And I wish that when I knew of you and the satsangs, I had come sooner. But every single time I come is a grace and a bliss that, again, how you love us and how you channel the manifestation of God's love to us is something that I can't, that my takeaway and what I share here to the Sangha is absolute grace, abiding grace and love that you bring here. And I love you for it. You are my beloved.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Time for one last question, if anybody could ask one.
AG, I have a question about Zazen, the Zen meditation.
Yeah.
Were you doing anything specific with your breath?
No. We did breath work at times in Zen, but it wasn't an intrinsic practice. No. So what was your question again?
We are in the Zen center. I go. Roshi tells us to extend our breath and stay with the breath to increase the concentration, and it seems to work sometimes, but it's kind of a forceful way. It feels like a forceful, and it feels like a struggle.
Explicitly, what does she teach you to do?
The Susokan, the method he tells us to do is counting the out breaths, inhaling normally, but trying to extend the out breath long, and he says it gets longer by time as you relax. It gets really longer, and you push the breath down to your hara, and yes, you somehow generate energy with this extension of the breath, but it feels not very natural. And I mean, I do zazen. I practice zazen daily, but it's nowhere near the meditation I I I do with you. I mean, when in the satsang, it's very easily I become motionless. I don't want to move because it's very blissful, and
Yes, it is, isn't it?
yeah. But during daily meditations, it's a struggle. I mean, most of the time.
Why don't you stop doing it that way for 3 days and find any other way of doing it, like doing nothing, instead of
Okay.
mixing it with because that sounds like a lot of work to be counting breaths and it's too complicated. It would be, you could go into a very specific kind of deep meditation, but it's better to develop a platform out of everyday kinds of practices that's more permanent and not specialized, but generalized, like what we're talking about here, not specifics in terms of breathing or mantra or anything like that. I would just find out what feels more natural to you to increase your meditation. If that way doesn't work, try what we do.
Yeah, the thing is, during the session, the retreat, Zen retreat, I tried just by just relaxing and uh, feeling the energies and that kind of stuff. But I couldn't pass the day by this only. I became very dull and sleepy and all, and sometimes it was very painful. I found out that this extension of the breath, the concentrating on something like your breath, keeps you awake, and even it's painful, you're more concentrated, and you are not dull. I mean, but when I try to relax, just relaxation and feeling the energies, it was boring and I got sleepy. I couldn't look. I couldn't look steady in front of me. My eyes were all over the place, and my brain started rolling. And yeah, but I'm gonna try what you said and try to do it more peacefully. At least I'll try. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry you're having that problem. We'll figure it out. Anyway, it's been fun being with you. Next time, same place, same time. What is a newcomer? Is your first name Ed? I can't read it.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Tell me about you.
Um, I've been meditating for 20 years. I emailed you in '07, and you gave me a lot of good advice back then. So I'm
And doing amazing arithmetic, that means you're 27.
no, I'm 39.
Okay. So much for my computation. Well, welcome. You're always
Good to
welcome.
be here.
Okay. I love you all. See you next week. Same time, same place. Bye-bye.